This episode, a discussion about how we use accounting software. In this episode, the Handyman Pros have a discussion about accounting software, what you need to know, and how to stay organized in your finances. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled, How We Use Accounting Software. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old financial buddy, John. John, tell me a story about this week, please, please, please.
Well, I did a couple of jobs for some folks this week, and I was just sitting down to invoice them, and a lot of times it's either I give them a formal invoice, or that they'll, if it's smaller, they might just give me a check or whatever it might be, and then I go back and I sit down and I enter it all in, and they don't need an invoice. And then there's a lot of things that get a lot more complicated that I'll do the invoice. Well, a couple things came up that I had to, either way, I keep it in my books for records. Okay. And it's a good thing. It's always a good thing to do, right? You can't run a business, flying blind.
Right. Right. Well, and folks, so this is aimed a bit at the handyman, but this is also aimed at people as well. If you don't have a good handle on your finances, you really don't quite understand. You're not as well organized, I think, as you could be. And understanding your finances is really critical to helping you save time, money, and aggravation. Because if you're aggravated with, if you find you don't make enough money at the end of the month, or as I like to say, there's too much month at the end of the money, could be an issue. But if you're keeping track of where you're spending your money, you might get an idea of what you can reduce on and what you can, what do you need to reduce on, or how do you get more money, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, absolutely critical when you're running a small business, though, that you understand your finances, that you understand money coming in, money going out, and how's it broken down, because it just matters. So that's the basis, right? We're not going to go into a long accounting dissertation or things like that, but I just wanted to say it. So there you go.
Yeah. And so really this episode, when we were talking, earlier about this, is that we're getting a lot of questions about quoting and estimating. Now, we just did a job on that, and
show.
I'm sorry. And we talked about that in some other kinds of specifics there of the how-tos, but I did get some other questions the other day about the software. Now, we use the software. I searched for a while when I was putting my business together over the last couple of years, and I came across some free software. I mean, I used to sell software and accounting stuff, but this is a software called Wave Apps. And Larry, I think you use the same one.
I do.
Now,
I do.
And,
yep.
And you used to use what, QuickBooks, right?
Yep. I was a QuickBooks and Quicken junkie. I've got to tell you. I've run several businesses over the years, and I've usually always run on QuickBooks. And I like QuickBooks. I like the functionality of what they have. But what I guess one of the points I want to make is that basically financial software, just in general, I'm making gross generalizations, but this is not anything new. So I started using Quicken in DOS. For those of you, you know what DOS is, John, but there might be some of our younger listeners that don't know. It was a long time ago. And point being is there's nothing really new and exciting coming out in the financial software business. So we got down to where we kind of look at it, you and I, we were talking about it, and we look at it as a commodity. I was on the verge of pulling the trigger on QuickBooks again, but it's gotten, I'm going to say, kind of pricey. It's expensive. Now, again, I'm not criticizing it. It's not that. It's just that I had multiple employees and I had tons of inventory, and I had a much different business when I was using QuickBooks in my last major business, which was the vending business, and that was really, really important for me to use QuickBooks then because I had a lot of inventory to manage and juggle. Handyman business, not quite so much. I mean, I've got quite a bit of inventory, as you know, John, because you look at my truck and go, my God, it looks like a small big box store. But most of that inventory is, I don't keep track of it. I just purchase it, and it runs as cash flow, and then I just charge people what I've got into it, to get out of it. So it's not like I need to track, how many units, and I don't have reorder points, and I don't have any of that. So anyway, with that said, like I'm saying, there's not a whole lot in financial software that's new, because accounting hasn't changed in a really long time. Would you agree with that, John? Like business accounting.
Yeah, well, we used to
say
accounting is accounting. I used to sell manufacturing software, and of course we had accounting software as well with the manufacturing. Manufacturing is a different animal, but the accounting is accounting.
Yeah.
So, from this perspective, I think we just both looked at what the businesses were, how complex or not complex they were, which ours aren't really.
Not really.
And all we needed was something basic that we can get by with, and we came across this software called Wave, which is free. Hey, free, and that's a good thing. And it works fantastic.
Yes.
Okay.
Been very pleased with it. Yep.
And we're not talking about an exhaustive list of functionality here. This is not what this episode's about. But in specifics, there's a couple of things that I know. Like I said, I've been getting a lot of questions. I'm reading a lot of questions on the posts about this in various Facebook groups and things like that. So I know it's on everybody's mind. And one of the nice things, for us, number one, it's free. It's mobile enabled, so
Yep.
you can, like Larry, I know that you do a lot of invoicing and things like that on the fly. On your phone, which is fantastic. Then you can hand it off to the customer. They can pay you, and everybody's happy.
Yep. And I like the fact that it's on the phone because I can do it in their driveway before I leave. I literally will fill out the invoice before I leave. It sends them to them in an email, which also helps me get their email address for other reasons, marketing mostly. I have a contact email address, which is that's a marketing issue, but really good idea to have the email addresses as well. So yeah, really like the mobile enablement. It's also got a really good chart of accounts, right? So
yes, it does.
You can add it has tremendous functionality as far as
it does.
The chart of accounts. So John, explain chart of accounts to people.
Well, chart of accounts is going to it really is all of the way that everything gets pointed to in your finances, whether it's an expense, whether it's an income, all these different categories, and you have to set up these categories in advance. And then everything flows into there. And then after that, the chart of accounts is going to start to detail all of your transactions that are taking place, all your pluses and minuses and everything else that's going to go on with your finances, so that you can have a look at your cash flow, your P&L, and all those kind of things. But it's really the base where you have to start off by putting in your chart of accounts. And, this can get very detailed. I'm not going to go into all the details of chart of accounts, especially in a business, but for us, it gives us that ability to create all these categories. Okay. So when you sell something, it needs to go into a specific bucket. And what are those buckets? Well, that's all defined in a chart of accounts.
Right. And that's up to you to figure out, right? So whatever your particulars are, that's how you can set it up however, whatever works for you.
That is correct, and basically they do have the default that'll get you going right off the bat with this software. So you sign into it and all that kind of stuff. It'll give you the ability to do all your complete transaction registers. Like I just said, so you can go down and see all your pluses and minuses, and you can get very detailed in this software. It's very impressive, actually.
It's actually very impressive for free.
For a free piece of software. It's very impressive. Now they do make their money on some other things, so don't think that that they're just not. They're doing this because they're good guys. So if you're running a payroll and things like that, then you're going to start to pay pay for it. But that's okay for me and you, Larry. We don't have anybody on the payroll.
No. And so, and that's one of the things that for us, it works out really well. They do charge a subscription service. That's how they really make their money. They're trying to get payroll services out of people, which is fine. And I think, we know they need to make money. I think they take a little bit. So one of the other things I like about this is this allows for credit card and ACH transactions automatically. Mm-hmm. You just have to tie it anyway. You can figure all that out. Just look at their website, and it teaches you how to do that. It's really, really simple. But if you don't want to deal with if you want to accept credit cards, you can. It doesn't cost you. I take that back. It costs you a rate,
the credit card charges,
but it's pretty reasonable. Yeah, it's what the card's going to charge you no matter what. Maybe even probably better actually, because you're not going to have service fees every month and all that stuff. It's very similar to some of the other providers that are out there. So if you're looking to take credit cards, you can do it through this. It integrates. The beauty of it is it integrates, right? So if it accepts a payment, it automatically posts that payment. So you don't have to. It's one less thing to do, right, John? I don't know if you're using that function.
Right. So that is correct. So if you have a bank account, a business bank account, you can tie this in with it, and then you get all the pluses and minuses going on, and it's keeping a register of all that into your business. They do have, I'm not going to get into all the details, but they do have a free debit card that you can take payments against and use that like a bank account. It's unbelievable. It's a Visa type of debit card. So I've got one of those. But I will say that, just a kind of an overview, you get into it, it has a dashboard, that pops right up. It's going to give you your whole, graphic of your cash flow, your P&L.
It's got good reporting in general.
It has great reporting, and you can export all of this into Excel if you want. But it's got all of your AR and AP are outstanding, and your net income and all kinds of expense breakdowns. So it's really a nice small business environment. So I would encourage everybody to kind of start to take a look at that. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about here is the invoicing, because that was a lot of times invoice estimating and quoting and invoicing, and kind of the nuts and bolts that I was looking at, Larry, was that when we put together these invoices, and of course it's a classic invoice, you can make it just the way you want on your business. You have your logo and all that kind of stuff, plus it defaults to customers, and you can put new customers in on the fly and all that kind of stuff. But so that's in the header section, but in the line item section, you can get very creative with it. So as a handyman, for instance, I have items in there, and it's basically the columns are, the item. Then you've got a description of that item. So the item could be an hourly. It could be the description. Okay, so I put down I'm charging hourly. Then I always write in a detailed description. It lets you put as much text in here as you want. That keeps it
right
for you and your customer in the books. Then the quantity of that, and it could automatically fill in my hourly rate. Then it will multiply it out.
It does the math. It does the math. It's beautiful.
All of that. So it's very quick.
Yeah.
So I'm there. I go in on an hourly deal. I go in there and say I did. Boom! I rebuilt this, and it took me 2 hours, and the invoice is done.
Yeah, and you just and if you're doing it the way I'm doing it, you write in that description, I repaired wood rot on your south door in the bottom corner, blah blah blah, and you write that out so that they know exactly what you did. And it took me, and it's hourly, and it's 2 hours, and it pops up the number and pre-filled.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly, it's in it. So on some of the longer jobs that we've done, I always put the date down in the description for each one of those things, because I might not invoice until the end of the week or whatever. So it does all that, and that keeps it straight in my books, and I can search and sort on that as well. So that's part of it. Now, getting to some of the other things that people were asking about. So these items, those are user definable items. Okay, so you can put in whether it's an hourly and what fields you want automatically put in there. So hourly, and then the quantity, or the price would be X amount per hour. And then you just have to put in, how many hours did I work, and boom, it's out. Then I might have a daily, I might actually have a discount line, and these are all, going back to the chart of accounts. I'm not going to get into that, but those point back, each one of these. I have one that's materials.
Yep.
So I've got my labor, then I've got materials, and materials might just be, hey, it's materials, no description, just leave description blank. Let me fill that in, and let me fill in the quantities and the price. Right. And I just keep a running of all that. I have one item that I call note. It has nothing to do. It doesn't hit my books, but it's just, something that I might have found during the job that I want them to be aware of, and it's in that invoice. Okay. Such as, hey, next time, this is really starting to go, this rot. So I'm just making a note here, or it might be a note that I did this, that, and the other. It might be some kind of miscellaneous thing. And then some of the items, here comes, how can I estimate and quote very quickly? After a while, you're going to kind of get to the point where I'm going to I can install a ceiling fan for, maybe my standard rate is $150 or $170. Okay. I might install a faucet for $200. So as I'm going around, I can just drop those into this invoice, and they just fill in everything. And I can create then an estimate or a quote which does not hit my books yet. It's aware of it, but it doesn't hit the books yet. And when it's accepted, I can take that and turn it into an invoice.
Yep. And this is the functionality.
You're done. It's very quick.
Yeah. So they have an estimating function in there, and I just want to touch on this because, to your point, John, we get a lot of people asking about estimating. So it has a function, and you can just do that. So, for example, I'm just going to say I'm looking at a door replacement job. So I go out to the site, if I'm out on the site, because I would just, for example, say I wanted to take a look at it, I can sit there and make these notes on my job. I can look and say, okay, so this is a 3.2, it's a 36-inch door, standard 36-inch door. I'm going to need a door, which of course you need to discuss with the customer. What are they actually looking for, et cetera, et cetera. But right hand, left hand swing, whatever. But you can put in, you can put in a rough number in there. You can put in, that's going to take me about, I don't know, maybe 8 hours, or which could either be a daily or an hourly rate, doesn't matter. However you want to bill it, that's your business. But you put in there, X amount of dollars for the install, that miscellaneous materials, caulk and screws and this and that, and you can add that in a different materials list. And then you have their email, you hit send, boom, done, sends it off to them. At that point, they look at it, they say yes or no, right? And if they say yes, then you convert. You press on it, convert to to a job order. Is it job order? Yeah, I think it's job order.
It converts it to a live invoice.
Converts it to a live invoice. Yeah, which you've not sent. So now, when you're out on the job, you're just looking at it, and if something changes, you can add it at that point. And then when you're done with the job, you hit send, and it's done. So it's a really simple workflow. I think that's one of the things I really, really like about it. It's just a simple workflow, and it doesn't allow you to do pictures or anything, does it? No, I don't think you can do pictures in there, but. Folks, take a picture and send it to the people along with the email of the estimate. Just say sending under additional cover.
So so the workaround on that, and that is one of the things. And I'm glad you brought up an interesting comment there, because that's on their list to look at for their development staff. Mm-hmm. But what they'll tell you, and what I've done is you can export this back to yourself, like right now, very quickly, of a PDF file.
Oh yeah,
and create that invoice as a PDF, and then put it together with your pictures that you've taken, and then send the whole packet to somebody that way. So that's kind of a workaround, but that workaround is quick and it works great. So it's, for me, that's not a big deal. I wish I could keep some things in here as pictures, and a lot of people are kind of clamoring for that. But, that being said, that the functionality in this is just fantastic. So I just want to close the invoicing part of this discussion with, if you guys are, or the estimating, if you guys are looking for something that's quick to do, an estimate, and Larry just described it perfectly, how that workflow would go. this thing is fantastic. It's not have the brains behind it that's going to say, I'm going to give you measurements and then you're going to give me the estimate. That's not what this is. But if you're doing some other things, it really it fits the bill.
And I concur with that. I just did want to say, don't forget when you're sending these estimates and invoices, if you have a logo or whatever you can create, even if it's just your name, it puts that on. It's a very professional looking invoice when you send it. So that's one of the great advantages. This isn't a piece of hand scrawled paper with your handwriting on it and da 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 da. It's nothing like that. It comes across as being very, very professional. The other side to it is you can send these things to yourself. You can have it copied to yourself, so you always have a copy in your email of what it is you've sent out. So if you're juggling a bunch of balls in the air, having an individual note of each one is a huge advantage. And then you don't lose it. It's not the old way of the way contractors forever have done it on a scratch paper and stuff like that. So I don't know, John. What else do we have on it?
Well, I'll just reiterate something and echo something you just said, is that the invoice can look very, very professional. And that means a lot. Larry and I talk about this all the time, is, being very professional brings you business, makes everybody more comfortable doing business. And when you hand somebody, professional looking estimate or, the invoice, it just adds a lot of credibility, to your business.
Well, it looks like you're on top of it. Which is the goal. We want to be, and we're not trying to sell this hard on you. If you want to take a printer with you, you can do it in the field and you can print this. If you want to hand them paper, but you don't have to, because I've actually have a mobile printer and I've actually had some people want it, so I print it for them. But I don't do it. I've stopped carrying it. I carried it early on because everybody wanted paper in those days. But
right, you can either text this thing or email it to people, and most people are all on top of that as well these days. So you're absolutely right. The other thing that I would say about this, and I'm not going to go into anything more in depth on the accounting side, but it does everything else. It does all your purchasing, the receipts, and it just keeps track of your
life
accounting.
It takes care of your financial life is what it does. So.
Now I will say that at the end of the year when you're doing your taxes, you print off all the pertinent information and for all your taxes, and you're done. It really is a slick piece of work here. But no matter regardless of how you folks, whatever system that you may use out there, use something.
Use something. Have something. Have it where you can access it. Even if you're doing a paper, basically a paper spreadsheet. Have something. If you don't know your income and you don't know your expenses, you're never going anywhere. Right, John?
Yep.
It's just that simple. If you don't know your income, and by the way, I say this to people and they laugh, right? I'm a member of the financial independence community. My first statement is, what do you make? What do you spend? And are you spending less than you make, or are you making more than you spend? That simple statement right there is the definition of financial freedom. If you know what you spend and you know what you make, and hopefully you're making more than you spend or spending less than you make, you're on the positive side of the ledger, meaning you're moving forward. You're up in the world, right, John? We see too many people, I do anyway, I know you do too, we see too many people that spend more than they make, and what happens, John?
Yeah, you can. You don't want to get upside down, and especially for all you younger folks out there, just be careful how financially things are going for you.
Yeah, it's just a pay attention deal. We're not saying, and literally you could use Wave for yourself for your own personal finances if you want to. How do I know? Because I actually did it.
Well,
so it works.
You brought
right?
up. Absolutely, Larry. You just brought up something very, very interesting. Part of this, when you sign up for this thing, is you can run a personal account on here, an additional account as well.
Yep.
So
yep.
You can separate your business from your personal. So interesting. I'm not going to go through all of it.
No,
you guys can go out and check these things out. And if you need more functionality and, this doesn't have it, then there's
lots of other
sky's
choices.
the limit.
Yeah,
sky's
lots of
the
other
limit
choices.
on financial software.
Yep.
So anyways, I kind of thought that this might be a little bit of a good primer to, talk about some of this estimating and how we use this to, in our daily businesses.
So John, do you think the aliens keep track of how many people they've abducted? I mean, if they keep track, they've got me like about 12 times, but I'm just saying,
Well, I know the last time I saw him, he had one of those green accounting visor hats on.
There you go. Perfect. All right, folks, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros radio show, please tell your friends and neighbors and anybody you know. If you've got, if they've got a project or something going on, we're coming up on 200 episodes. We've got a lot of resources in the backlog here, and we're getting ready to update our website. It's coming really soon. It's going to actually be tremendously much more functional thanks to my good partner, John, because he really understands all this software nonsense. But anyway, we are getting ready to update that, but we've got tons and tons. Please tell your friends and neighbors to listen to us if they would like to learn something and maybe have a good time listening to us at the same time. Two, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. We're also on Facebook at Handyman Radio, we're on Twitter at Handyman Radio, and we're on Facebook at Handyman Pros. So once again, we want to thank you for listening. We will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.